Hello, everyone, and my name is Craze, and I want to thank you all for coming back to me once again in the world of Noita. So, before we begin with today's video, I want to say a couple of things. The first thing is, I want to thank you guys a lot for the support and the attention that the past couple videos has gotten. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually expect them to get as much attention as they did, and it kind of threw me off a little bit of how much they was getting. So I do want to thank you guys very, very much for that. The second thing is, while I am interested in still providing you guys more content on this game and teaching you guys more about the ways that this game is working, this is very much just kind of a hobby for mine. This isn't going to be a thing that I'm going to be popping out a video every single week kind of deal. I might try to aim for at least one a week, but I would definitely say don't expect to see something out like every single day or every single other day. This is still very much just a casual fun thing for me. But I do want to get out a lot of videos on this game. There is a lot of things I want to show and share about this game and teach you people a lot of the very fun and interesting things about this game and a lot of other stuff. So before I go ahead and keep rambling on, short story is, thank you guys very much for coming in. Thank you guys for the support. I'm going to keep doing it. And with that said, let's go ahead and get this one started. Hey guys, this is Craze bumping in before the actual main meat and potatoes of the video starts. Because I got a feeling that a lot of people are going to ask where I am in the video or have questions about it. I am currently in what you would call a modded area called the Spell Lab. This is something that you can find on Steam. I also have Cheat GUI installed as well, but for the most part, everything that you're seeing here is done purely through Spell Lab. It is an incredible mod that I would recommend everyone look into and grab, as it can teach you not only a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be teaching you throughout the lessons that I'm going to be bringing to you through the School of Wizardry series, but it also can just let you learn a lot about the in-depth mechanics on just about everything in Noita, if you could even, and just everything else. Like, I'm on top of that, it also does have, if I can find it, a challenge kind of puzzle thingy, which is basically it'll drop you into a bunch of different little scenarios, puzzles, and you have to kind of solve them, kind of like, you know, a puzzle. And these can help you learn a lot about the game. So before anyone asks any questions about that, I'm wondering where I am or anything like that in the video, now you know. So sorry for that quick interrupt. Let's go ahead and get on to the actual meat of the video. So if I remember correctly, the last video that I talked about, which was just the tips and stuff, I mentioned that the next video, this one, was going to be focusing in on the wands, and here we are going to be doing just that. So this one is not going to be a super in-depth look at the wands. That will be a follow-up video going over a little bit more of the ins and outs of a lot of the wands and how to really do a lot more things with them specifically. But this video, I wanted to keep it clean. I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to keep it very straightforward. And that video idea is just going to be basically talking about the jarbled mess of words and numbers that comes up on every single one and going down the list in order on what everything does and how to understand it, how to read it, and also while you're out doing your runs, how to quickly identify what wand, when you see it on like the pedestals or out in the wild or anything, how to quickly identify what kind of wand it might be. So you can see below me, I have a bunch of wands going off screen, going that way, and we're going to go down the list of these wands and all the stats and all the modifiers and all that stuff that every single wand has, starting from the top going down to the bottom. We're not going to be using this one as an example, but this was just kind of to quickly show it off. So we're going to go ahead and just drop that really quickly. We're going to go over here. So the first wand stat information thing that every single wand has is shuffle. Shuffle is very simple, very straightforward. It is basically, if it is a shuffle wand, if it says shuffle yes, it means that the wand will shoot its spells in a completely random order. So if I pick up this wand right here, which is a shuffle yes, ignore the other stats, we're just focused on the shuffle yes for now. If I put spark bolt, triplicate bolt, and then energy orb here, because this is a shuffle wand, it will grab these in whatever order it wants to shoot them in. There is no predictability. There's no consistency with them. It'll shoot them in whatever order. So if I shoot this, Spark Bolt, Triplicate, Energy Orb. So it had the normal, right? But that time, Energy Orb, Triplicate Bolt, Spark Bolt. So it went in the reverse order. And if I shoot it again, Triplicate Bolt first, Energy Orb, Spark Bolt. Very random, very inconsistent. That is basically what shuffle means. There is a way to manipulate this in a way, but like I said, a lot of the more in-depth and advanced things about wands and how to mess with them is going to be in the follow-up video. Very much though, if for the most part, if you see a wand that is shuffle yes, you typically do not want it. Sometimes though, you are not put into a situation where you really just have to go with it and just deal with it. But that is what shuffle means. Whereas if I go over here to this one, which is a shuffle no, if I put those very same 3 spells on in the same order, Spark Bolt, Triplicate Bolt, Energy Orb, yeah, it will shoot them in that order. Every single time. Spark, Bolt, Orb. Spark, Bolt, Orb. Every single time. So, that is what shuffle means. So, the next one in the list is spells per cast. This is also very simple, very straightforward. It is simply saying how many spells will you fire in a single click, essentially, a single cast of your wand. So this first one right here has a single spells per cast. So if I put all of these spark bolts on it, it'll always shoot 1 per cast. You can see this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 over and over and over again. Whereas if I go over to this one right here, which has a spells per cast of 3, if I put all 3 of those on, that is not the right one. If I go over to this one, you can't really see it here, so let's do bubbles. So we have 1 spark and 2 bubbles. If I shoot this now, it shoots all 3 at once. Again, also very simple, very straightforward. Can be useful for certain things, and you can manipulate it in certain ways to make it more beneficial. Typically, spells per cast is also kind of one of those things where it's really up to the player or the individual. Unlike shuffle, which is typically you don't want a shuffle wand. Spells per cast, really up to the individual. You can make a multiple spells per cast wand work really, really well. Really depends on what gear and what other funny stuff that you have available to you at the current time. But that's how you can. But that is what spells per cast is. Conveniently enough, when you go up into your menu, shuffle and spells per cast is the first things that pop up on the thing without even having to hover over the wand to see the rest of the stats. So, the next stat that we have is cast delay. Cast delay is basically the time between one spell to another spell. So, what you see here in this one, I have 3 bubble sparks and a cast delay of half a second. What that essentially means is every single time when I shoot one of these bubble sparks, half a second later, I'll be able to shoot another one. And then half a second later, I'll be able to shoot another one. So a good way to see this is bubble spark, half second cast delay, bubble spark, half second cast delay, bubble spark, and then it'll reset. So if we shoot this in the example, about half a second between each spark. Again, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but visual example to show you what that means. A good way to remember this, if you play any kind of shooter game, cast delay basically is your fire rate on, say, a gun. The lower it is, the faster your wand will fire. Similarly enough, if we go over to this next one, the next stat in the wand is recharge time. Recharge time is basically once you have fired all the spells available in the wand, it will trigger a recharge time. That recharge time is whatever timer is on that. So in this case, we have a 1 second recharge time. What that means is once I have fired all 3 of these bubble sparks here in this wand, I will have to wait a second before I can start firing these again. If we go ahead and shoot the example, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Very simple, very straightforward. Good way to remember that. Again, shooter example. Recharge time is basically your reload time. Lower it is, faster your gun will reload. Or in this case, your wand. Oh, I guess I can pick this up because I didn't make more wands for this. So, next 2 stats pretty much go hand in hand. That is your max mana and your mana recharge speed. Maximum mana is basically how much mana you have available to the wand. Every single spell, spell modifier, multicast, everything in this game that involves coming out from a wand does cost mana. How much mana it costs can be read on the spell itself. We will go into spells on another video when I get around to it. Some spells are very cheap, like this Bubble Spark, 5 mana drain, whereas spells like, say, Triplicate Bolt or Energy Orb are very costly at 30 and 25 respectively. And depending on how much you are vomiting out, whether it be from spells, modifiers, all that stuff, having a higher max mana is always going to be a good thing. Similarly to recharge speed, having a higher recharge speed is also going to be helpful. When you have a wand out, by the way, if you go over and hover over the blue bar up in your top corner, it will show you what your wand currently has out, how much of your max mana it has, and how much current mana is available in the wand. Typically, needing to know how much current mana you have available in the wand is not something you need to worry about unless you're messing with a wand that has an extremely low recharge speed, but an extremely high mana capacity. In those cases, those wands are best suited for basically one-shot big heavy burst and then putting them away for a while kind of deal, kind of like a rocket launcher if you want to think of it that way. And so, but it's something to keep in mind. Next up is capacity. Capacity is basically how many slots you have available on the wand. So in this case, we have 12 slots, 12 capacity. If we count the boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The last two got hidden by the text box. But basically, capacity means how many boxes and how many spells you can put onto the wand. Spells, modifiers, all that stuff. Higher capacity is typically always good. Typically, and you always want to have as much capacity on basically every single one that you get, as much as you can, as high as you can get it. There is a pseudo soft cap to capacity on your wands up to 26, I believe. The game typically will not generate wands out in the wild beyond 26 capacity. And 99% of cases, there are in very awkward niche cases where the game kind of borks out and gives you a little bit more. But typically think of it as capacity is capped at 26, and you really won't see many wands going beyond that. The last stat that is available to see on the wand is spread. Spread is basically your accuracy. The lower it is, the more accurate your wand is. The higher it is, the less accurate it is. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I didn't really make any wands that were specifically really high spread. But if you have a wand that has like 26, 27 degrees spread, I could probably pop one out here really quickly, actually. Just up. And just do that. So if we have example for this wand right here, I just very quickly vomited out. Why does this not have anything? That I'm a very professional. Ignore me. I should probably, give it, mana so I can actually, shoot the dang thing. I am a professional. So we have these spark bolts on here with a very high spread degree of 24. When I go to shoot it and put this away, it will spread out all over the place. It will not hit where my cursor is. That's basically what spread is. Again, every single stat on the wands can be manipulated in some way. In a future video, in the follow-up video of the wands, we'll go over it. So, that's not what I wanted to throw out. I wanted to keep those. I wanted to throw out this one. So, before we go over into these wands, something I do want to mention really quickly, and it's something I didn't really think about mentioning, but might as well do it now. So, specifically when it comes to cast delay and recharge time, this is something I want to specifically mention here in the wand section, because it's kind of important. So, when it comes to your cast delay and your recharge time, obviously when I said your recharge time is basically your reload speed, something to keep note of is if you are using a spell or something that would make your cast delay exceed your recharge time. So an example for this one that I'm just hovering over right now, if I was to do something to make it so that my cast delay would go over 1 second of 1 second, meaning it'd be higher than the recharge time, when you go to hit that recharge time, it will take into account whatever is higher of these two numbers. So To show you that as kind of an example here, I have this wand right here with the lightning spell. Again, I'll go more in depth on spells and how they affect wands a little bit more, but I want to show this as a very quick and dirty example here. On this wand, you can see here that my cast delay is 0.17 and my recharge time is 0.33. However, the lightning bolt spell here, if you look at the very bottom of it, it has an additional kind of modifier to it called cast delay plus 0.83 seconds. What that will do is when I cast this, it will add that 0.83 seconds on top of the wand's already initial cast delay, which will push it to 1 second exactly. It'll be a 1 second cast delay, but recharge time is not affected. But because the cast delay is going to be higher, it will take into account into that before it can let me reshoot it, reload it, whatever you want to call it, to show you that off. If this did follow the normal thing, as soon as I shot this, I would be able to shoot it again, 0.33 seconds higher. That's not going to be the case, as I will show you here. I am holding the trigger right now. It's going out every 1 second. That is because the additional cast delay from lightning bolt is being applied to the cast delay of the wand. It is making it higher than the recharge time. So it's going to take into account the higher of the two numbers. Something to keep in mind when you're going to build your wands. The follow-up video will go a lot more in depth on that and how to explain how all of these stats work, how they can be manipulated, adjusted, and all that stuff. But for now, that's just something to keep in mind when you're making your wands and adjusting with them. So, now that we've gone through all of the stats of the wand, we're going to go ahead and talk about, as you're going through a run, how you can very quickly identify what a wand has without having to basically walk over to it, without having to get on top of it, basically. And believe it or not, I should probably pick up a wand so I can actually use this as an example. Believe it or not, most of the stats that you see right here on every single wand can very quickly be identified out in the world without actually having to get near it or pick it up. And we're going to go ahead and go down that list. So, for shuffle, for example, a quick way to identify whether or not a wand is a shuffle or not is every single wand will have either this solid chunk of a gemstone here, you can see here in the wand just like right before the handle, or they will not. If they have this solid chunky gemstone here, and you can see it here, or even on these other wands, all of them have that really chunky gemstone, that solid block right near the handle. If you see this, and you can see it over here in these two wands right here, which is the example, if it has it, it means that the wand is not a shuffle wand. But if it does not have this chunky gemstone, it is a shuffle wand. So for this wand right here, this first one in front of me, it doesn't have that solid chunky gem, and it is a shuffle yes. Whereas this one, it has that chunk, so it is a shuffle no. Very simple, very easy to quickly identify. The next one to identify is cast delay in the overworld. So cast delay can be quickly identified by determining how wide the wand is. Not the length of the wand, the width of the wand, the wide, the girthiness. How thick is it? If it is a very thin wand, like this one or even this one right here on the ground, it has a very low cast delay, typically below 0.2 seconds. As you can see here, 0.15, it's very thin. Whereas if it's a very wide wand, like this one, it has a substantially large cast delay, like this one, 1.8 seconds. I just made these wands as just off the spot with the stuff up here. And you can kind of see that. Recharge time, as far as I have been able to find out or even look through, there is not a telltale way to determine if a wand has a low recharge time or high recharge time just based on the visual alone. Similarly, max mana and max mana recharge speed can also not be identified through visuals alone. If there is a way to identify these three stats, I do not know of it currently. If someone else does know, and if there is a way to identify, please let me know in the comments below, and I will put like some annotations or something like that, or I'll reprise the video or add it at like the very end or between here in post-editing. So, next one, the next stat that we can look at is the spells per cast. So, the way to identify how many spells per cast a wand has before touching it is looking at the tip of it. If the tip of the wand has just a single pointed end, like this one in my hand or this red one right in front of me, it is a single spells per cast. If it has 2 spells per cast, it will have a double-ended tip. If I go ahead and make one really quickly as an example. So spawn. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. So a double-ended tip like this, it will be 2 spells per cast. And if it has 3 spells per cast or more, you can't have more than 3. It will have a trident tip like so. It'll have 3 pointed tips, kind of like a trident. So, if you're looking for wands that are multiple casting per click, look out for that. And the last stat that we can identify visually without having to pick up the wand is the capacity. So, while the cast delay of the wand was determined by how thick it was, capacity is determined by how long it is. So, for example, this blue wand right here has a very large capacity, as you can see here with the 23, whereas this little short stubby purple one only has a capacity of 3. So, if you want to look for high capacity wands, you now know what to look for. So, with all of that being said, like I said, this is just a very quick, straightforward example tutorial on the very basic stats of the wand. I was not going to go into super in-depth on how to kind of min-max adjust a lot of these numbers, because to do that is its own separate video, and every single one of them has quite a few different ways that you can adjust them. It's mostly due to spells and spell modifiers, which if I was to jump into that, it would already be very, very long, and this is already a pretty long video as is by the looks of my recording. It's going to be probably 22, 23 minutes, something like that, maybe close to. So the follow-up video will be continuing the lessons here that we built up with the wands and understanding the basics of the stats. The next video that I will be going over when it comes to the wands will be talking about every single one of these stats a little bit more in depth and how to kind of manipulate them, start talking a little bit more on the spells and how all of these work with the wands and how you can kind of pseudo adjust a lot of them to play a little bit more into your favor if the stats or something on the wand is not necessarily working great for you. So, with that in mind, I do want to thank you guys very much for coming for this live comm, very rambly kind of style video. I'm still kind of learning how I really want to go about doing this, how I kind of want to go about teaching people and doing all that kind of junk. So if there's a preferred method that you guys would like to see or anything like that, let me know in the comments below. On top of that, if there's anything specifically you guys would like me to kind of talk about, whether it be a certain spell or spell combinations, maybe something about wands or anything of that nature, also let me know in the comments below and I can write it down on a list and get around to it at some point. But with that all being said, I want to thank you guys very much for coming. Until next time, take care of yourselves, hug your loved ones, drink some water, and I'll see you guys in the next video in the next lesson for the School of Wizardry. Until then, take care and happy noiting.